Good morning and welcome to Valley Focus. I'm your host, Deborah Lurie. On this segment, something that probably a lot of us, especially those of us who've either been in radio, around loud rock concerts our entire lives, or blasted rock music our entire lives, might be suffering from, and that is tinnitus. Or as you say, Dr. Rohe, Tinnitus. And I said, no, we can't call it tinnitus because the world's going to call it tinnitus, so let's just stick with that. So Dr. Alan Rohe is here this morning. He is an audiologist practicing in Mesa and Tempe. He's also the founder of the Tinnitus Foundation, tinnitus to us lay people. And you brought Jesus Diaz with you, who has suffered with tinnitus for 10 years, right, Jesus?
That is correct.
Now, when I sleep at night, I got my head to the pillow, I'm ready to go, and I'm closing my eyes, and I swear to God, I got the finale at the 4th of July fireworks display going on in my ears. You know, that even the aftershocks and everything, I can hear that. What was your problem, Jesus?
Well, mine, it started like you mentioned, Deborah, about 10 years ago. And I started noticing as I was driving. And at first I said, it probably is some sound on the road or something. Mm-hmm.
Because you get road noise in your car.
Right, exactly. But then as time passed by, the sound started coming to me even without driving. But to me, it's like, imagine having a giant seashell next to your ear.
Okay.
24/7. And that's what it has been for me.
How long have you had this for? 10 years at least?
10 years at least.
Pronounced?
Right. Pronounced probably 5-6 years.
Okay, so like me, mine has been going on for, I've really noticed it in the last 5 years, I would say, Dr. Rohe. And at times it sounds like fireworks, like the finale, not just regular fireworks, but the finale, and then other times I'll hear like the volume will drop. Like 1 minute it's like normal volume, and I got the TV at normal, and I'm like, what did they say? And I'm hitting the DVR, rewinding and going, what did they turning up the volume? What did they say? And now you're trying to read their lips because it's like, I can't turn the TV up any louder, but I still can't understand what they're saying. Is this just old age? Is it brought on by did you have a profession, Jesus?
No, I worked in office for all of my adult
So it's not like you were
life.
in a part of a demolition team blowing up buildings or in a loud factory
firing guns or anything, cannons or anything.
Nothing.
No.
So this can affect anybody, Dr. Rohe?
The potential's there. Certainly there are cases where we don't know the etiology of it. The most common factor is noise exposure.
You would think, right? That's why I asked Jesus if he, worked in some sort of loud environment.
Correct. So when we have a patient come in, we try to discern what's going to be the most common cause of their tinnitus. Usually noise exposure, as I mentioned, is going to be the most common factor, followed by head and neck trauma, and aging is going to follow behind that. There are certain medications that can be toxic to the ears that can cause problems, exposure to certain chemicals. Once we've ruled out all those anomalies, it may sometimes also be what we call a somatic type tinnitus, where it's going to be a body-generated sound. Many times it can be a side effect of head and neck muscles are usually the common culprit. The head and neck muscles, the jaw joint can also be a contributing factor to the perception of tinnitus.
So if someone has TMJ, for example,
that's correct.
That could cause the tinnitus as well?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned like head or neck injuries could causing it as well.
Right, like a whiplash injury in a motor vehicle accident.
So if you're out of line, or if you're C or whatever, or if your head's in the wrong place, which I've been accused of many times, but not to get off the subject. So there can be a number of extenuating circumstances that can attribute to your tinnitus.
That's right.
Not just loud rock music, although in recent years, rock musicians, their fans, people listening through through iPads and iPods and using those little earbuds, they say are really detrimental to your hearing because you're actually stuffing those things into your ear canal pretty much.
That's right. And the effects are cumulative. So You might have early exposures that just add up, and over time the inner ear starts to weaken, and then you start to wake up one day and you've got this little sound in your head that you just don't know where it's coming from.
Can it cause deafness?
No, it doesn't cause deafness, but a lot of times people feel like the perception of their tinnitus gets in the way of their being able to hear people. And really what happens is the brain can only focus on one task at a time. So if a person has a loud, unrelenting tinnitus in their head, the brain's going to put its attention on it because it wants to figure out what the sound means and where it's coming from. So a person can't really read a book and have a conversation at the same time. That's how the brain is single task. So if it feels that this sound that it is hearing, per se, is taking on some kind of a significant influence, the brain may see this as a potentially threatening sound. The brain's going to task itself to monitor that signal routinely. It's going to put more focus on that. And by virtue
So that's
of that,
why it becomes more pronounced to you?
that's why it becomes more pronounced. And you put the conscious attention to it, it ramps it up and makes it louder. So then the brain is compelled to monitor this signal, and that's what creates the nuisance, the annoyance. It's just a very noxious sound that people are trapped having to hear.
Well, we mentioned, if you go to rock concerts, if you are a musician, if you've been exposed to, loud levels of noise throughout your career or whatever it may be, you talk about Pete Townsend, who's deaf. Mm-hmm. He's admitted it, that, and I believe the Who were in the Guinness Book of Records for the loudest concert ever on the history of the planet. You mentioned that in your material that you submitted to me, that when you do go to a rock concert, you're being subjected to 90 plus decibels.
That's right.
How loud is that?
It's pretty darn loud. So
is that louder than a Who show?
Not quite as loud, but some of them can get pretty close to it.
I think the Who registered over 100 decibels at one point,
right?
If I remember correctly. But then, you're talking about Kiss clocking out at a whopping 136 decibels.
Right.
That's deafening.
It is. But you got to remember that...
So should we wear earplugs when we go to a show?
That's the ideal. Because
but then you can't hear. Everything sounds like...
That's right. Those are the foamies. Those really shave off the high frequencies. There's other options. There's $10 earplugs called Eddy plugs. They're designed with a special filter that keep the attenuation flat so that the sound comes in naturally, but at a safer volume. There's also custom attenuated plugs. They're about $160 for a pair, and those are great for musicians as well as people that like to routinely attend shows, because then the sound comes in naturally.
I was just at a show 2 weeks ago, and I swear all I could hear was bass. It was just boom, 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 to the point where my pant legs were vibrating.
Right.
I could feel them flapping, and I'm like, boom, 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 boom. By the time I got to my car, my head felt like it was stuffed with cotton.
Right.
So you're looking at me like, not a good thing, huh?
Not a good thing. No, that's the temporary effects of that loud noise. So we've got to do a better job of educating the public how to better protect their ears. We're a long way away from engineering controls in America to try to get sound levels down. There's obviously great creative ideas that we can do to help protect musicians. They're definitely at risk for tinnitus and hearing problems. One thing that we are out there right now trying to do with musicians is better train them how to monitor with in-ear monitors as opposed to the stage wedges. So we can actually get pretty creative with the musicians and help protect their hearing.
When you say the in-ear monitors, as opposed to, we've all gone to shows, we see those little wedges sitting on the stage in front of the guitar player, a bass player, or whoever, and we can see and they usually have the set list taped to it, that kind of thing. When you say the in-ear ones, explain.
Well, what the in-ear monitors do is it gets rid of the stage wedges. There's a sound war that goes on stage. Each performer has his own individual monitor mix. Mm-hmm. And so each performer needs to hear themselves over the other person that's performing on stage. Mm-hmm. When the mains are pushing the sound out to the crowd, there's a delay in the sound coming back, and that can create a timing difference for the performer that can cause them to play off key. So the wedges are put on the stage in order for them to hear themselves in real time. But then you got to fight each individual performer, as I said, in terms of how loud their mix has to be. If we can get rid of those wedges off the stage and get in-ear monitors in the ears, then each musician has the potential to roll back the volume of how loud they're performing, and they can put in their own individual mix, what they want to listen to.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that eliminate the sound mixing guy, the board guy?
No. That actually
too
makes
bad, because usually they're the ones that ruin the show for me.
Yeah, they're the culprits, and oftentimes
They are. They're bad.
Yeah, they can be a culprit. So if you have a good sound engineer out there, it can be a great experience for both the crowd and also for the musicians.
Because nothing will kill you worse than a mix. Your mix will kill you if you're up there. Like the opening act of the show I went to see last week, she was so drowned out by her band because she wasn't a power singer anyway to begin with.
Right.
So her band just drowned her, just buried her. And I'm like, man, struggling to try to hear her amidst all this. It was really a task.
It is. A lot of these problems can be fixed, and that's proper education.
How much are these in-ear monitors? Any idea what they run?
Yeah, starting price on a simple single driver monitor, you can start out about the $300 price range. And then when you get into the really nice ones, the pro touring bands like Dave Matthews Band use, they're going to run about $3,000 for a pair of monitors.
And you get one in each ear? Or?
You get one in each ear.
That's pretty cool.
Your sound engineer can put individual mixes in each ear separately. You can have it in stereo. And then they place mics around the stage so they mic in whatever they want put in their mix. So oftentimes with the drummers that I work with, they only want to hear themselves in the mix and bass guitar. So oftentimes with the performers...
they want to hear the rhythm section.
Correct. So oftentimes with the musicians, when they have the in-ear monitors in, they're not hearing the same thing on stage that you're hearing out in the crowd.
Sometimes I'm wondering where that guy at the mixing board is really sitting. Is he really sitting in the crowd and hearing what I'm hearing? Because this is a mess.
Yeah.
Don't you have to wonder sometimes?
Yeah.
All right. You started the Tinnitus Foundation.
That's right.
What made you do that?
Well, I've been in the trenches, so to speak, with tinnitus patients for a long time, and I've been very frustrated by the lack of research that I see going on out there, lack of education of the public in terms of the preventable aspects of tinnitus. I just think that we can do a better grassroots effort. I think that we can approach a lot of the problems in engineering. We can approach a lot of the problems in early start in the school system, teaching better hearing conservation measures in schools with bands, music programs. I think if we start out early, we're going to make a lot of gains in terms of a highly preventable problem.
Are you a musician?
I'm not a musician myself.
Because you talk like one.
Yeah. I love music, and I've spent a lot of time studying it and being around it. I like working with musicians.
You talk about taking our kids and treating them and trying to educate them as to really what it's about is how to protect your hearing.
That's exactly right. And if we start out at an early age, kids really respond to and respect what they're taught by adults. So
how do you get these kids to realize, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? How detrimental these earbuds can be to their hearing?
One way we could do it is there's great programs out there that are hearing loss simulators. So we can actually give them an idea of what it would like to listen to their through their ears with a hearing loss that there's no cure for. And I think it has a profound effect when you take away certain frequencies that we know to be caused by loud music damages the high frequencies. Mm-hmm. Once you start to show children what it's going to sound like for the rest of their lives listening that way, I think it has a really profound effect.
So basically it's a scare tactic.
Well,
kinda. Come on.
Yeah.
Give it up.
Yeah, to some extent it has to be a little bit of a scare tactic, but that's not really the approach that we want.
Well, that's like when I was talking earlier about sitting there and all of a sudden my volume is dropping, or I'll drop one of the frequencies and I'm like, what's going on? Why can't I hear that?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it'll come back. A lot of times it happens in the studio, and I'm not one to blast my headphones.
Sure.
I've never been a headphone blaster. I don't like music loud in the car.
Right.
I get really annoyed when somebody pulls up on the side of me and they're blasting it to the point where it's distorted and your car is shaking from the vibration because the bass is so turned up.
Right.
So I'm not one to really do that. But I have to think that, in 35 years of rock concerts and stuff, I've done something.
Sure. Well, the one thing you can try to do is teach the hearing conservation end of things, but the other thing that you can teach people is how to balance it out. You're never going to be able to tell a musician that they've got to turn their instruments down to a certain level. It's just not possible. Instruments are designed to be played at a certain level. So what we have to try to figure out is the balance where they play at certain levels, which we can measure, and then give an equal amount of time that we can figure out for the musician how much rest to give the ears to balance it out so that they don't have permanent damage to their ears.
You had mentioned attenuated earplugs. Where do you buy those?
Most audiologists can help you get those.
Okay, which is what you are.
That's what I am.
And are you helping Jesus? Is he one of your patients?
He is one of my patients, yes.
Jesus, what has Dr. Rohe done to alleviate some of that discomfort that you were getting from the tinnitus? You said that oftentimes to you, me, I have the fireworks. You have the old seashell held up to your ear all day.
Yeah,
what
you
has he
wake up-
done to try to alleviate some of that discomfort?
Yeah, I was thinking you wake up to the fireworks, I wake up to the ocean.
Yeah, but the ocean's nice. It's supposed to be relaxing.
Not 24/7. Not when it impacts your sleep. Not when it impacts many other aspects of your quality of life.
So it was
everyday life.
bothering you to the point where you
If-
couldn't sleep?
I couldn't sleep. I mean, I could sleep. Then an hour later, the ocean would come roaring in,
And you're like, wait a minute, I live in the damn desert. Where's this ocean coming from?
I know. No. I think like many other folks that suffer from tinnitus, I logged on the internet and started reading a little bit about it. And the more I read about it, the more I kind of became hopeless because everything I read said there is no cure, there is no cure, there is no cure.
So it was just
But-
one great big negative.
Exactly. But then I had the good fortune of being referred to Dr. Rohe by my primary care physician. And talking with him, he said, yeah, there is no cure, but there may be some way to manage it, to mitigate the sound, and as he stated earlier, how we can condition your brain to kind of get balanced back again with those sounds. And the way that I have been managing that is through what Dr. Rohe told me is creating a white noise through a gadget. It's got the earplugs, and it's been filtered to my individual sounds that I hear, so that
So these are custom.
So his device is customized to him, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I hear the white noise an hour and a half before I go to sleep. And initially, I would wake up and I would really not hear the ocean for 5-10 minutes. Now, after about a year of managing the white noise, I can go for about 45 minutes in the morning. And to me, that's hope.
huge.
That's hope. It's huge, and it's hope. Now, I know that there is no cure, but I know that through this sound management, it will mitigate it. I use it, like I said, an hour before I go to sleep.
So you don't sleep
And-
with it?
No, well, it's got a timer.
Oh, okay.
that
So it
it'll-
only goes off for a certain amount of time?
an
Sure,
hour.
some people can use it to help them to fall asleep because, like
Right.
you mentioned, that's the time where it seems to bother you the most, and that's the quietest part of the day. So the brain is not actively being distracted like it is throughout the day. At bedtime, the house is quiet. Then the brain has nothing else to focus on but the sound that's internal.
Right. That's probably
Yep.
where Jesus would get most of his
Benefit.
ocean sounds would be at night when he was getting ready to go to bed when everything is quiet.
Sure, right.
Yeah, that was the worst time when everything was quiet. The sound would just amplify in my.
And sleep is
my
a huge
ear.
problem for a lot of these patients.
Because your sleep is disrupted.
It's
because,
disrupted. Mhm.
you know, you figure that the benefits of sleep is to get into that deep REM sleep, right?
That's right.
That's where your body gets the most benefit from. And if you can't get into that deep REM because you're hearing the ocean or you're hearing the fireworks or you're just hearing a hum or whatever the case may be, your body doesn't have time to rejuvenate itself either.
You're exactly right, and that's where it becomes a quality of life issue. So you're going to see a lot of people that are exhausted, they're frustrated, It's going to interfere with family relationships. The dynamic is going to be different. The person's not getting a good night's sleep. They can't function the same on the job. It can be quite difficult for people that really just are tormented by this.
Are you still working, Jesus?
I'm still working
In the office?
in an office.
And the ocean is gone. You're not oceanside at that office anymore, are you?
Not that often, and not as magnified as it was before. I'm fortunate that I can use the sound management device in my workplace. I do a lot of computer work, and
When you say the sound management device, I know that you have a name for it.
Right.
The Sound Cure Serenade.
That's correct.
Now, when you say you can use it at work, Jesus, what are you hearing out of this device? Are you hearing...
I'm hearing a noise that I cannot describe other than it's a white noise.
So almost like the old days when the TV would go off and you hear that shh.
Well, the device actually has 4 different customized tracks. It has what are called S-tones. It has narrowband noise and white noise. The S-tones are modulated tones that help to disrupt and distract the brain's attention from the tinnitus signal.
So Jesus can set it on whichever one he wants?
Any one that he wants.
Or is there a certain one for certain times? Like, is there one for sleep, one for daytime, one for...
No, he uses whatever works best for him. We've customized the device for him. It takes about an hour to program it to his tinnitus profile.
And you determine this by testing the ears and seeing which frequencies are missing? Or
Absolutely.
Which ones are responding more sensitively?
Well, I do more extensive testing than a basic test battery, so I spend about 2 hours doing a complete audiologic profile, psychoacoustic testing for tinnitus. We go through a complete case history and a lot of counseling, and that's a huge component. It's not just the sound therapy, it's a lot of counseling to help a patient really understand deeply what's going on with the tinnitus, the mechanisms of the tinnitus, how we use sound to retrain the brain. So it's a very involved process.
So you've been doing this for a year, Jesus?
Approximately a year.
And how is your quality of life today as opposed to the first day you walked into Dr. Rohe?
Like I mentioned earlier, full of hope. It's more relaxing now. I do get much better sleep at night. I wake up and I don't hear, at least for a particular small amount of time, I don't hear that noise. During my working hours, like I said, I use it, and it really has improved my quality of life, and I attribute it to the mitigation of the tinnitus, that noise.
So
and the only thing that I have changed in my life is I started using the device.
That's the only thing that's different.
That's the only thing in my life that I've had.
Jesus Diaz is here. He's been suffering from tinnitus for 10 years, something that probably a lot of us listening today, rock musicians, fans, iPod generation, people who like to listen to it loud. I know that there's that old expression, I love it loud, by Kiss, which at one point clocked in at 136 decibels, which is downright deafening. We used to think that The Who had the loudest rock concerts on the planet. I think that Kiss, I think that beat that out. But you have U2, people in the U.S. You have Neil Young, you have Pete Townsend, Chris Martin from Coldplay, you have Ozzy, Will.i.am, just to name a few musicians or music people who have tinnitus. And you know just by talking to me that I have it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't even have to get into detail. Just the fact that, I'm losing different frequencies at different times of the day, and they'll come back. It's almost like if you're going up in the elevator and your ears pop, and then you come down, or if you're going up the mountains and your ears pop, you got to open, or you're in an airplane. It's almost like that, but then it'll come back. You said, Dr. Rohe, that something is that you may not have thought about at the time, like a whiplash or a neck or a head injury, could cause the tinnitus. Not just being exposed to loud music or loud noises, but it could be something that happened to your body that threw your body out of whack that caused it in the first place. could it also be something, and I hate to trivialize it because this is not a trivial thing. This can be debilitating to a lot of people. Could it be something as simple as just having too much earwax?
Absolutely. So if the ear canal is plugged off with earwax, the brain has its own automatic gain control mechanism. So if the sound's being blocked from the outside, the brain wants to get sound in. So it's going to turn the volume up maximally in the brain, which is going to increase nerve activity, electrical activity, which is going to then create the perception of a sound. Not an outside sound, but you've uncovered your neurologic noise floor. So that can be sometimes a trigger for patients. Fluid in the middle ear can cause the same thing.
Wouldn't that be something similar to, you said fluid in the middle ear? My mom, I'm going to go with my mother now. My mother, because she's on the East Coast. And my mother will not fly. She goes, Debbie, you know I can't fly? My ears. My ears. I can't fly because of my ears. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? You know I have problems with my ears. I can't fly. She can't sit in the car in the back seat and go around curves. She gets like that vertigo.
Sure.
Would vertigo cause tinnitus as well?
Vertigo in and of itself is not going to cause the tinnitus, but there are some types of disease syndromes that can have vertigo as one symptom and tinnitus as another symptom.
Because you said that the inner ear, and vertigo has to do with the inner ear and those little hairs that are in there that can throw your equilibrium out of whack.
Yes, and your balance organ is a separate organ in the inner ear than your hearing mechanism.
Oh.
So the primary function of the ear is for balance. Hearing is secondary.
Okay.
So each of those end organs can be affected without affecting each other, but sometimes there are disease processes that will affect both together.
Dr. Alan Rohe is with us this morning. He's an audiologist practicing in Mesa and Tempe, and he's the founder of the Tinnitus Foundation. He has Jesus Diaz with him today as well, sitting in with us this morning, who's suffered with tinnitus for 10 years. Dr. Rohe says tinnitus, and Jesus and I say tinnitus, right, Jesus?
That is correct.
What is the function of the foundation, and where can people go to find out more information about it?
Well, we have a website, the tinnitusfoundation.org.
You want to spell that?
www.tinni.
Wait a minute. T-H... You're spelling the?
The.
I wanted you to spell tinnitus.
TINNITUS.
TINNITUS Foundation.org. Okay.
And we can also be found on Facebook at the Tinnitus Foundation.
Okay. How long has the foundation been in existence?
Well, we chartered actually last November.
Oh, so you're kind of a baby.
We're a baby. And we've got our next...
And no other one in the country? You're the first person to think of this?
We're not the first person. There's a parallel organization out of Portland, Oregon called the American Tinnitus Association. And we are trying to work in parallel with the American Tinnitus Association.
Okay, so kind of team up.
Absolutely. So we've gone up to...
There's strength in numbers, you know.
Strength in numbers. So instead of duplicating what they've been doing in their organization for 40 years, we have a little bit different drive going on. And we feel that we can work together to reach out to more people.
And that's why we're here today, because this is something that Jesus suffers from. I know that I do, and many of my peers as well, many of my musician friends as well. And as you said from the onset of our conversation, there is no cure, but it can be controlled. You can mitigate those sounds that you're hearing if you're hearing certain sounds, right?
That's right.
And the device that does that is the Sound Cure Serenade. I think people might be sitting there going, oh, for goodness sake, Deb, can't you just turn up the ceiling fan and make that noise? A lot of us, to go to sleep at night, like to hear a little bit of noise. We just don't want it in our heads, correct?
That's right. And certainly you can do these things at home. We don't question that. But when a person reaches a point where they're really suffering, then it becomes more than just what you can do at home. Anybody can turn on white noise. You can tune a radio between stations to generate that. But then what we end up doing is the counseling component that I mentioned before. You have to spend a lot of time working the counseling and the sound therapy together to really make progress. And there's a lot of research out there that shows counseling alone, sound therapy alone, have a different outcome than sound therapy and counseling working together.
So you need the dynamic duo, so to speak.
You need a dynamic duo.
You need both.
You need both.
Jesus, how do you feel today?
I feel much, much better than I felt a year ago. I see and feel things that I used to feel 10 years ago. I enjoy my work life, and most certainly I enjoy my quality of work life with my family, my children, my 2 grandchildren.
And you're getting better sleep.
And I'm getting definitely much better.
So you're not waking
sleep.
up all pooped out and zapped every day.
And cranky and grumpy. and
Now I know my problem. It's like, man, she can be nasty. No, she's cranky because she didn't sleep well last night. The tinnitusfoundation.org, or tinnitus, as Dr. Rohe says. It's THETINNITUS foundation.org. Got a phone number for us, too?
Okay, the telephone number, this would be at my practice, Tri-City Audiology, is 480-831-6159. You can also find our practice on the web at tricityaudiology.com.
Okay, tricityaudiology.com. The tinnitusfoundation.org, and that's TINNITUS. Phone number 480-831-6159. No need to suffer with noise in your head, right, Jesus?
That is correct.
And I'd like to mention that we have our next fundraiser coming up on Saturday, September 21st.
What you got going on?
We've got a Oktoberfest at the Hungry Monk restaurant in Chandler.
Ooh.
So we'd like everybody to come out. I think we're going to have a very unique time. Good food, good beverage, good music.
At the Hungry Monk. And what is the date on that? September
21st.
21st. And that information is up on the foundation website
That
as well?
will be up on the website very soon.
Okay, so keep an eye out for that. September 21st at the Hungry Monk in Mesa. It's Oktoberfest for the Tinnitus Foundation.
That's right.
A big party.
Big
but
party.
not loud music.
No loud music.
But a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
All right, go to the tinnitusfoundation.org, find out more, or check out tricityaudiology.com. Phone number for Dr. Rohe, 480-831-6159. Jesus, I thank you for coming by and sharing with us this morning.
My
Dr.
pleasure,
Rohe, thank
Deborah.
you so much. This has been very enlightening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.